Okay, hopefully we've got the glitch out of the Irv Homer show. It is Wednesday, March the 18th. The time right now is about 5 minutes after 8. And you can contact me by telephone if you so desire, 215-253-8877, 215-253-8877. In addition to doing this program, I do a radio program at 1 o'clock on WBCB 1490 AM, and they do stream that program, so if you want to hear live programming, you can tune in the afternoon. We have a chat room that you are entitled to use. We hope you use it, ask questions, make comments about what is going on. And this is a no-holds-barred program. There's no FCC regulations controlling the content. There are no sponsors to worry about. There are no program directors to worry about. Nothing except me and you, the viewing or audio listeners of the Irv Homer Show here on the Internet, broadcasting from irvhomer.com. A couple of things that I would like to throw out and get your response to is a couple of things that are starting to frighten me. One is this buildup of AIG and the suggestion by United States Senator Grassley, that the administrators or executives of AIG should either resign or kill themselves. That is what one of our United States senators said in a radio interview, then was challenged on the House floor and said that they should perform the Japanese procedure of harikari. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't care how angry you may get at the drumbeat and the mob rule that I see developing on talk radio, on the television news, and on the Senate and House floor. But the people who received those bonuses did not steal the money. It was given to them. Do I object to it? Yes, but I object to the entire capitalist system in this country, the way it has been run under the myth that we're a capitalist country. And since no one in this country understands what capitalism is, we're starting to develop a mob rule mentality. These people, ladies and gentlemen, who received those bonuses, received them in good faith. They didn't steal it. It was given to them. Contracts are negotiated. These contracts were negotiated. Now, whether you like it or don't like it, these men and women have families, and the death threats to those Americans, including the head of AIG that went before a Senate committee today to testify, lives are being threatened by United States elected representatives. And if we continue this drumbeat of killing these people, we are no better than the puppet dictators that we rise up in righteous indignation about, and we must slay them with our swords. Now, it's amazing to me that we've lost over 4,000 men and women in Iraq and Afghanistan by a war that those of us who knew what war is could not be won. Yet I never heard anyone from the floor of the House or the Senate, including Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives, wanting anybody in the Defense Department, in the President's office, the military, suggesting that they commit suicide or be killed. And I can assure you, if this drumbeat keeps up, and the hostility against the officials of AIG who conducted the business of AIG and created the mess that capitalism approves of, there's going to be blood in the streets of America. And if the president is set, what's going to happen is any grievance that your neighbor may have against you, if you're a local banker, if you're a local mortgage lender, if you're an investment advisor, I suggest you arm yourself, because you're going to have some disgruntled customers and patrons coming after you. I do business with a bank that just moved this week. I stopped in this morning. I won't mention where the bank is or what bank it is. But it looked like the floor of the casino. To me, it looked like an open invitation to stick the place up. If my wife or my children worked in that bank, I would have them quit. When you hear this constant harangue against American citizens, such as you hear on radio and see on television, and once again from the House floor and the Senate floor, you're building up a hatred for everything and anybody who may want to collect the debt that you owe. And hell, if Senator Charles Grassley can say they want to commit suicide, why the hell should I worry about a mortgage lender in my bank? I may as well shoot him or shoot her. Or walk in and say, I'm not going to pay my mortgage, why don't you commit suicide? Senator Grassley said, you ought to. Are we crazy? The president today, in a speech prior to his leaving for California, admitted that the problem is his and he's responsible. Well, it's just not so. I don't know whether the Barack Obama administration is going to work out or whether it isn't work out, because nobody knows. These are waters we've never sailed in before. These losses are unbelievable. But if you studied the history of capitalism, you knew it had to happen. Reviewing my life, I guess I've lived just too damn long. And maybe we should have a restructuring of education in the Wharton Business School and the schools that teach financing, and teach them what the hell capitalism can do and how structured it must be, and the role of government in a capitalist society. Because I can see sure as hell that the people of America don't know what the hell it is, and the travails and pitfalls of capitalism. And as I say, I've lived too long. I make no bones about it, I'll be 85 next month. And I've lived this crap. I didn't read it from a book at Wharton School. I didn't read it from a book at Penn. I didn't read it from a book at Harvard. I didn't read it from a book in Yale. I lived through most of the history that they're distorting today. And I'm ashamed of people my age who have dropped out of the intellectual school of involvement to play golf, pick their nose, join the Silver Sneakers, and these other crappy things. It is every American's responsibility, regardless of what age they are, to instruct the young to make sure the same mistakes aren't made again. And we in my generation have sat on our asses and take our retirement money from Social Security, crying about the investments that you trusted somebody else with your money to invest for you because you weren't smart enough under the capitalist system to know how to protect yourself for your retirement. So you went and trusted AIG, and you trusted Lehman Brothers, and you trusted Bernie Madoff because you were too damn dumb as you were working, watching television, going to the Eagles game, watching the Phillies, knowing sports scores, instead of learning how capitalism works and the possibility that you don't give anybody else your money to invest for you unless you get a damn guaranteed, locked-in, secure contract that your money is going to be safe. And for the idiots who scream about big government, and I listen to radio and television and shortwave radio and NPR, I'm still waiting for someone, conservative or liberal, and even on my website and on my email, on the commercial radio station, and on this thing that I do here on the internet, I'm waiting for somebody who is against big government, like Hannity and Limbaugh, playing the constant bullshit of Ronald Reagan. Government is not the answer to the problem. Government is the problem. Well, Ronald Reagan and you idiots who followed that fake, phony fraud, why don't you deposit your money in a bank that is not insured by the federal government? This big government that these right-wing conservative bullshit artists, you'll pardon my French, are against. I guarantee you that those windbags do not have one dime invested in any place that's not insured by the federal government. So while the hypocrites are screaming the government shouldn't bail out AIG and the government shouldn't bail out General Motors and the government shouldn't bail out Chrysler or Ford, their money and your money is secure in a bank that is insured by the very government that you object to, you damn hypocrites. You wouldn't put your money in the Irv Homer Bank that's not insured by the federal government, by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. You wouldn't send Hannity your money. You wouldn't send Limbaugh your money, Gallagher your money, all these other right-wing bullshit artists on radio that are against big government. I dare them to tell their listeners and the conservative writers, the Charles Krauthammers, etc., I dare them to say, don't deposit your money where it's insured by this big government. Don't deposit your money there. When the hell are you people going to learn? Young people I will excuse, but the old farts like me should be ashamed of yourself. I just don't get it. And I'm going to write a book called I Just Don't Get It. Talking to a gentleman today, doing a remote broadcast. I can't understand why the oil companies, gentleman's 91 years old, delightful man, not too bright. Made a lot of money though. I won't tell you what business he was in if I mentioned the business that he had, that he sold for a lot of money. You know who it was. Did not know that the United States government in 1963 eliminated the 23.5% depletion allowance for America's oil and gas companies. And some of you old farts probably don't even know what I'm talking about, but you were alive in 1963, and some of you young people were never taught it in school. So I feel that it's my job as the elder statesman behind the microphone to let you know why we don't produce our own oil or natural gas. Now, what is the 23.5% depletion allowance? The 23.5% depletion allowance was a tax incentive for oil and natural gas companies to drill for oil in the United States and to look for natural gas. And as a result, as the oil was removed from the ground in Oklahoma and Texas, North Dakota, Arizona, Pennsylvania, we had oil all over the United States. Read the history. You old farts probably never read history. Young farts were never taught it. So I'll tell you about it. The oil company said, fine, we will spend money for wildcatting, and we'll find oil and gas in America. And in return, as we use more and more oil out of the ground, we will be depleting the amount of oil underground and natural gas. And so the government gave them 23.5% tax reduction every year as more and more gas and natural oil was removed from the United States. Well, thanks to John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson, and they hated each other. Make no mistake about it. The Massachusetts and New England-born Kennedy did not like Lyndon Johnson, the Texas cowboy. Kennedy figured the only way he could go back at Lyndon Johnson, with his brother Bobby as the district attorney, or the attorney general rather, and the power of the executive branch under which the IRS comes in, is the leader of, he said, I'll get even with the Texas oil man and the Oklahoma oil man that are supporting Lyndon Johnson, and I'll eliminate the 23.5% depletion allowance. And at that point, all the oil dried up in America. All the natural gas in America dried up. But the oil companies were smart enough to cover their bets, good capitalists that they were, and went to the Middle East, joined up with British Petroleum, joined up with Aramco, the Arab American Corporation, and taught the Arabs how to make money out of oil. Now, this gentleman did not know that in 1963, all the oil wells and all the natural gas deposits in America dried up. Don't bitch and complain about the oil companies and the profits they make. Get in touch with that knucklehead congressman or senator of yours and ask them if you want energy independence in America. Forget green gas. Forget go green. Forget alternative energy. And give the oil companies and the natural gas companies, once again, the 23.5% depletion allowance as they remove oil from under the United States. And I guarantee you, with the amount of capped oil drills that we have in America, and the natural gas that is capped in America, we could generate 60% of the oil and gas that we in America need and could be energy independent within a month. Now, did any of you old farts ever hear that? Or did any of you young farts ever learn it in school? And to the knuckleheads down in Washington, who we elect to represent us, the lobbyists in Washington make damn sure that that 23.5% depletion allowance is never allowed to come off or be put back on again, because they get fed by the oil companies who figured if Uncle Sam wants to screw us, we'll screw him. And they are screwing us royally, and biggest, boobest Americans don't know the difference. We could be oil independent within 60 days. Do some research instead of picking your nose and scratching your ass and worrying about whether the Phillies are going to win the World Series again. And research and find out how many oil wells are capped in the United States. Why do you think America is worth over $500 trillion in assets? Underneath the United States is enough power generating capabilities to make us energy independent. But you're more worried about some bullshit like abortion or prayer in school or other garbage that don't mean a damn thing. You don't want an abortion? Don't get one. You want prayer in school? Who the hell can stop you? Can anybody stop your kid from praying in school? You're so damn dumb, America, it nauseates me. Probably not the listeners of this program or those that will listen to me over the years. Hopefully you got some education. I don't know what they teach you in school, but I know one thing. They sure as hell aren't teaching the things that I would set up as a curriculum for American people. So one of the things to look out for, if you're an investment counselor, if you're a bank, if you handle other people's money, OPM, you better make damn sure you don't have any disgruntled customers. Because if this mob mentality continues with the politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, the talk show hosts, television talk, you better watch your ass when somebody walks into your bank or your investment office or any place where you're handling other people's credit card offices. You just better watch your behind. I know I'm rude and crude tonight, but sometimes you just got to kick the donkey in the ass to get him to move. And the American donkey is stuck in neutral. The American donkey needs a kick in the ass, and I feel I'm the one to do it. So we're dealing with the mob rule mentality that is starting to be generated because of AIG, and we're questioning why all the oil and natural gas dried up in America in 1963, and then Kennedy gets assassinated with the one bullet theory that nobody in their right mind could believe. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I've lived too long. And it's one of the reasons that when I die, I'm burning every piece of information or notes that I've ever written, because it don't mean anything. People just don't learn. You want to stop these buyouts? Don't pay your taxes on April the 15th. Oh, you'll run scared as a rabbit, for Christ's sake. You'll be standing in lines at midnight handing in that 1040 form. Don't tell me the brave Americans. Bunch of cowards. 3 little letters, IRS, will scare the crap out of you. You know I'm telling you the truth. I don't care whether you like what I'm saying or not, whether you agree with it or not. The question is whether or not I'm lying. And I'm not. Gentleman by the name of Liddy today who is now the head of AIG, went before Congress to be brutalized and insulted by the very people who were supposed to be the guardians of the American investment industry. Did anybody stop to find out whether Mr. Liddy was the head of AIG at the time all this crap happened? He wasn't the head. He was called in to try to solve the problem, and yet he had to go into that Senate hearing with armed guards because of the mob mentality to kill these people. I can see Bernie Madoff, who ripped off people to the tune of billions of dollars, needing an armed guard to go into the court so he could plead guilty. But this man was called in after the fact to try to straighten out AIG, and his family are under threat, and we have to provide security to keep him and his family alive. What are we, some banana republic? Well, we are a banana republic because if you tune around the dials, watch the news, and hear the idiots, they want to lynch these people, they want to hang them, they want to kill them. We're a disgrace. I'm embarrassed that I hear what I hear and read what I read about threatening other Americans who did not do anything illegal. If they committed some crime, there are laws in our federal statutes to prosecute them. But if they were legal and did everything open and above board, and the phony baloney congressmen and senators allowed it to happen, I don't advocate killing any American, but if anybody's going to be killed, they're the ones that should be killed. Not the people that worked for AIG, unless they were criminals, and then let the system prosecute them. But if this damn Dobb mentality doesn't come to a halt, you're going to see innocent blood on the streets of America. I just don't get it. I'm Irv Homer, broadcasting from irvhomer.com. My website is www.irvhomer.com. My email address is evilirv@irvhomer.com. And RGH Computer Services put this all together for all your computer problems. The telephone number for them is 215-322-8685. 215-322-8685. My live phone number here in the studio is 215-253-8877. Something local here in Philadelphia is the 150th birthday of the Philadelphia Zoo. Now, the Philadelphia Zoo, ladies and gentlemen, is part and parcel of the history of the city of Philadelphia. And it has enjoyed the reputation as being one of the better zoos in America. And so all along television tonight, on the three major networks, the local affiliates that were doing the local news, the reporters were at the Philadelphia Zoo showing the birdhouse, large animal house, lions, tigers, celebrating an anniversary of the 150th anniversary of the Philadelphia Zoo, and extolling the virtues of the zoo. Once again, I've lived too long. Well, let me tell you the story of the Philadelphia Zoo. In 1939, the Philadelphia Zoo was going to close. It had no funding. And a local businessman had a restaurant in South Philadelphia who was very instrumental in the Italian community, providing living quarters, getting them jobs for Italian immigrants in South Philadelphia who came to this country. Mr. Frank Palumbo, from the profits of his restaurant, Frank Palumbo, that's right. Some of you probably never even heard the name. Well, let me inform you. Maybe you'll learn something. Used to take 100 to 200 kids to the Philadelphia Zoo out of his own pocket, hiring buses for the poor kids of South Philadelphia, Italian and others, and treated them to a day at the zoo. Frank Palumbo was a very popular man, very non-flamboyant man, a gentleman. Never drove an automobile, never owned an automobile. He had one of the most successful restaurants in South Philadelphia and a catering business in which many, many banquets were held in the Nostalgia Room and in the Nostalgia Club. Everybody knew Frank Palumbo. Anybody that needed a handout, Frank Palumbo was there. And when Mr. Frank Palumbo found out about the possibility that the Philadelphia Zoo was going to close, he came up with a program called Adopt an Animal. And since he was familiar to all, never ran for politics, incidentally, but since he knew all the Democrat and Republican politicians in the city of Philadelphia, mayors, council people, he launched a campaign to adopt an animal. And so Mr. Palumbo adopted a hippopotamus, a couple of crocodiles and alligators, a giraffe, out of his own money, raised money in his restaurant, bought these animals, fed them, supported them in the Philadelphia Zoo, and every celebrity that appeared at Palumbo's nightclub adopted an animal. Names that may have escaped you over the years: Don Rickles, Sergio Franchi, some of the great entertainers of years gone by. I think part of their contract was that they had to adopt an animal in the Philadelphia Zoo to keep it open. Well, when the trend became popular, businesses, banks, businessmen, sports figures, all started adopting an animal. And they filled the Philadelphia Zoo and kept it going, to where the rebirth of the Philadelphia Zoo after World War II was unheard of, never been done before. Adopt an animal. That program is still alive and well. And had it not been for Mr. Frank Palumbo, who I knew personally, but was more familiar and friendly with Kippy Palumbo, his wife, who was a former movie actress and the most beautiful woman you've ever met in your life, both visually, personality, honesty, religious, and a warm, dear friend, the Philadelphia Zoo flourished. Philadelphia, ladies and gentlemen, has two drives on either side of the Schuylkill River. One is the East River Drive, beautiful, and one is the West River Drive. On either side of the Schuylkill River in Philadelphia, there are drives. Brutal to drive on, but they're gorgeous. And so we had a councilman in Philadelphia. It was Grace Kelly's brother. The movie actress. Jack Kelly, the father, was a bricklaying contractor. Well, young Jack Kelly was a rower. Used to use the Schuylkill River to practice rowing at the Vesper Club, which is a rowing club on the Schuylkill River. Jack was a councilman, unfortunately, died at a young age. And lo and behold, woke up one morning after Councilman Kelly's death, Grace Kelly's brother, there was no longer an East River Drive. It was West River Drive. Or rather, Kelly Drive. Wait a minute. So now Philadelphia had Kelly Drive on the east side and West River Drive on the west side. So Irving at one time, before I became a dinosaur in radio, just an old fart with a big mouth, an active brain, decided to change the name of West River Drive to Palumbo Drive, named after the man who kept the Philadelphia Zoo open. I did it without the approval of Kippy Palumbo, his widow, and apologized to her after we got some 100 names of national celebrities calling in on my program supporting the name change. Once they learned that if it were not for Frank Palumbo, the Philadelphia Zoo would have been closed. And for those of you not familiar, West River Drive runs right near the Philadelphia Zoo. So I thought it would be an honor to change the name to Frank Palumbo Drive, or Palumbo Drive. And how you change things in Philadelphia, you introduce a resolution in City Council. There are 17 members of City Council, 13 members of assigned districts, and 4 councilmen at large. And the bill is introduced on Thursday and read. It is then reread or approved the following Thursday. Now, if City Council doesn't approve the resolution, then what happens is it's killed. And you can reintroduce that bill a year from now. Well, the resolution passed 17-0, approving the change of West River Drive to Palumbo Drive. And I felt pretty good about it because I was the one that started on my program. However, the mayor had 10 days to sign it or reject it. Now, since Mayor Good, who was the mayor of Philadelphia at the time, did not do anything after 10 days, it automatically became law. So a dear friend, Sal DeVito, and myself, Sal worked diligently with me. He volunteered, and I accepted his offer. We couldn't understand why. We did it legal. We got the names. We got the petitions. We introduced the resolution to Philadelphia City Council. City Council approved it 17-0. Not one vote against it. The mayor didn't do anything within 10 days. It became law. Guy by the name of Eugene Fitz-Dixon, multimillionaire, political contributor, owner, I think, at one time of the 76ers. Fairmount Park Commission has the right to make name changes of any drive. Well, they never approved the change to Kelly Drive. When Jack Kelly died, when did they institute this new program? Philadelphia Park Commission, Fairmount Park Commission, gets its funding from Philadelphia City Council. So I venture to say that the guy who writes the check is the guy that calls the tune. Well, because of Mr. Fitz-Dixon's political muscle, the city council, whom Mr. Fitz-Dixon was a heavy contributor to both Democrats and Republicans, went into court to litigate who has the right to change the name of a drive, bicycle path, or highway in Fairmount Park. All bullshit. One of the complaints was, well, we'd have to change all the maps of Philadelphia from West River Drive to Palumbo Drive. And my response was, did you have that problem when you changed the name of East River Drive to Kelly Drive? The answer was no. There are only 4 signs, ladies and gentlemen, on West River Drive. And those who objected in the Fitz-Dixon camp, 4 signs. Great. How much does a sign cost? $1,000? I'll give you a check for $4,000. That takes care of that problem. So that excuse fell by the wayside. Needless to say, to get this thing tied up in court will have cost a lot of money. And so ever since then, I've been seething inside. The dirty, rotten, stinking politics, the cowardice of Philadelphia City Council over the years, as a former Philadelphian, just nauseated me. Sitting quietly, doing my radio program on a daily basis, get a call one morning. Irv, yes? Guess what they're going to name West River Drive? What? Were there hearings? No. Was it presented to City Council? No. Well, who are they going to name West River Drive after? Some great Philadelphian like Mr. Frank Palumbo, who kept the Philadelphia Zoo open? No. West River Drive is Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. With all due respect, what the hell did he ever do for Philadelphia except cause a damn riot? So if you want to name a highway or a street in Philadelphia after someone, start a riot in Philadelphia, they'll name a road after you. I know that Martin Luther King was a great man who united humanity, and unfortunate that he got killed, but I'm talking about a different situation altogether. Martin Luther King personally did nothing for the city of Philadelphia. Probably never even knew the Philadelphia Zoo existed. And they named West River Drive after him. And above all, the Italian community in Philadelphia is a disgrace. You're a disgrace. At that time, when Mr. Palumbo and his family were instrumental in bringing over your ancestors, paid for their tickets from Italy, gave them housing in houses in South Philadelphia that Mr. Palumbo rented himself so that your relatives could come here, you sat on your Italian asses and ate spaghetti and drank wine and didn't give a rat's ass what Philadelphia City Council did. You should be a damn ashamed of yourself. Do I pick on any ethnic group, any religious group, or anyone who doesn't have the backbone or the brains to support the people who are good to them? And that's the story of the Philadelphia Zoo. But nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a rat's. Why do you think I don't want nothing named after me? I don't want a damn thing. You know why? Because you, the public, ain't worth it. You ain't worth it. Because you're sitting here listening to this thing, being entertained. You won't do a damn thing about anything. And I know it. Been around long enough. Something happened today, and my dear friend Shirley says, are you going to call? I said, I wouldn't call anybody. Why? Well, look what you did for that person. You got them national recognition. I said, so what? The broadcast industry is a whore's business. I've said it 100 times. If that person appreciates what I did for them, they will call me. From 8 o'clock this morning until now, it's 10 minutes of 9, have not received a phone call from a person who for 30 years I have kept in the limelight in the Philadelphia market. No, I won't call. One other thing, and then I'll get to some of the most stupid questions I've ever had on the chat room. But out of 4 questions, there's one good one. It gets depressing, ladies and gentlemen. It really does. Scanning the paper today. Don't bother getting on the chat room. I'm going to answer any questions. I can't deal with this stupidity. Blow them off, Ron. I just can't take it. I can't take it anymore. Unless you something important to say. Don't bother my time with bullshit. I put up with it all day long. One question, one comment out of the whole damn thing, and no phone calls. You people don't deserve to be educated. You don't deserve it. Lose your mortgages, lose your houses, get your kids on drugs, go watch the Eagles game, go play with yourselves, go cheat on your wives, do whatever the hell you want to do. Leave me alone. Just ain't worth it. Ain't worth it. Reading the paper this morning, the Obama administration is distraught because North Korea has refused to take our food allotment. What? I had to read it twice to get the significance of it. North Korea rejects U.S. food aid. Now let me ask someone here, maybe you can tell me, what the hell are we doing giving food aid to the denounced enemies of the United States, North Korea? Are we nuts? I just don't get it. Is there any congressman or senator can explain to me why North Korea, who we have 50,000 troops stationed in South Korea in case they cross the 38th parallel, and they make probes every day to see how our defense response is with the South Korean army, what in the hell are we doing feeding those people? I don't get it. And so I introduced that subject today on my radio program, and a gentleman called and said, with all due respect, I treated him very kindly, as I do during the commercial radio program. If there's a bad father, you wouldn't deny the children food. Making the analogy between North Korea and the people of North Korea. And I said, that is indeed a valid question. However, if we find a father or a parent who mistreats their child, we will remove that parent from the home or remove the child and take care of the child, feed him, nourishment, and protect them. But we're not removing the North Korean government. We are aiding and abetting the cruelty on the North Korean people by feeding the people while the same government keeps them in oppression. while the same government has been identified by Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, George Herbert Walker Bush, the former President of the United States, and even Robert Gates, who was the Secretary of Defense of America today, stating that North Korea is in fact a terrorist country, including Japan, which has filed formal protests in the UN against the launching of long-range missiles into the Sea of Japan, where all North Korea has to do is put a strategic nuclear weapon on that missile and it can hit Japan. They're also working on the possibility that eventually they will have a long-range missile that has the capability of reaching the United States. And we're continually sending food aid to North Korea. These are the things that we should get indignant about in our news media. These are the things you can get outraged about on talk radio. These are the things that I don't understand, that I just don't get it. Crazy. I guess I'm obligated to answer these questions on the chat room. Irv, this has got to be the same person over and over again who sends this thing. The Fed, meaning the Federal Reserve Bank, I suppose, being a private banking cartel, wants to make the maximum amount of profit for its shareholders. Why would they buy all this FNA, FHLC paper if a lot of it is worthless? I know they just create the money out of thin air to pay. Well, my dear friend, if Boobas America is dumb enough to let the Federal Reserve Bank become an entity in which they have to pay the debt that the United States debts them to, let them get the worthless paper. It's not worthless to them. It's worthless to you, because without that worthless paper, you can't buy anything. They could make potatoes, string beans, the means of currency. Irv, will they still make a profit on the huge amount of bad debt they are buying, even though most of it is bad paper rich? There is no such thing as bad paper, because the paper has an asset. Real estate, automobiles, repossession. They're going after the millions of dollars that Mrs. Bernie Madoff has. There is some volatile assets. Bad paper is used to confiscate good assets. Irv, why did the government let Lehman Brothers fail? Because Lehman Brothers was bought out by Bank of America. That's why they let it fail. Next question on our chat room. Does anyone remember the Alaskan oil line? That was going to solve all our oil problems in the 1970s. I heard that most of the oil goes to Japan or China. Is that true? When the Alaskan oil line was built, my dear friend, good question. The United States, after World War II, which old farts like me may have served proudly but don't know what the hell they were serving it for, America developed what is known as a nuclear umbrella. That nuclear umbrella covered Western Europe and the Japanese Empire, extending to the Philippines, in which America would not allow anyone in that nuclear umbrella or under that nuclear umbrella to be subject to dictatorships, winds of war, or adverse effects because of political situations around the world. The Middle East and the Japanese and the Philippines and the Samoan Islands and the entire Pacific Rim, as it's known as, was not friendly with the Arab nations. The oil from Alaska was designated to be built to supply oil to those in the Pacific Rim that were under America's nuclear umbrella. Japan, still at the end of World War II, is not permitted to have an offensive military, Navy, Army, or Air Force. There are Japanese advisors in Iraq and Afghanistan. They are not permitted to use weapons. They are there in an advisory capacity, and they are there to relieve the strain of Americans behind the lines. Now, the danger is, from pundits, that we cannot allow Japan to rebuild its military strength that it had prior to World War II. And so it is our obligation to supply them with oil from the Alaskan pipeline. It was one of the things that were critical in my broadcast career to have it explained to the American people what that oil was supposed to do. But fortunately for our politicians, ladies and gentlemen, and I know I've been pretty rough on you tonight and rough on the American people, but the American politicians know of the 300 million Americans that 285 million of them are horses' asses and can get away with any damn thing they want. And that's why you've got Iraq, that's why you've got Afghanistan, that's why you had Korea, that's why you had Vietnam, that's why you've got the situation that exists today, because the government knows that the American people are horses' asses. Only 26% of the registered voters in America ever vote. So why the hell should they worry about the American people? They get more excited over March Madness. And you get these doofuses, basketball players. I think that the reason Villanova may win is because it's local and we got good teams and good managers, and boy, we may win the NCAA. Ain't that neat? Ask this idiot if he knows what the CIO AFL is. He wouldn't know. I'm Irv Homer. I'll see you Friday.